so that the sky can kiss the earth again. With the insights of natural scientists like Tesla, Reich, and Schauberger, as well as with the Agnihotra ritual, Madjid Abdellaziz makes the desert bloom, dissolves chemtrails, and pacifies entire regions. Spherical harmonization systems have the potential to free the world from many problems, and they are already available on a small and inexpensive scale. Have you noticed lately that chemtrails are dissipating quickly or even appearing less frequently? If so, then a spherical harmonization system may have been set up near you. Gone are the days when we had to watch helplessly as the world around us became more and more polluted with incendiary technologies, and the vigilant watchdogs earned the title of crank or conspiracy theorist. Madjid Abdellaziz is the developer of such systems. The Algerian studied computer science in Berlin and then worked in higher positions at VW and the Fraunhofer Institute. In 1994, he flew as a passenger in a military helicopter to the Tassili mountain range in the Sahara. Once there, he didn't get back on for reasons he still doesn't understand. This was fortunate because the helicopter crashed. None of the passengers survived. Abdellaziz was in shock. A Tuareg desert dweller said to him afterwards, "The desert still needs you. That's why you survived." At the time, the technician could do nothing with these words, but history was to prove the wise man from the Sahara right. Since that gift of survival, in addition to his technical training, Abdellaziz has been occupied with the theoretical foundations of orgone physics developed by Wilhelm Reich, as well as with the approaches of the natural scientist and hydrologist Victor Schauberger, and the inventor and physicist Nikola Tesla. In 1999, he began to put this knowledge into practice. He implemented the first system for harmonizing the atmosphere, together with the Algerian government near Tlemcen in the west of the country. He implemented the first system for harmonizing the atmosphere together with the Algerian government near Tlemcen in the west of the country. But Abdellaziz had to realize that politicians usually do not want what is best for the people. They confiscated my equipment and defamed me. That's when he decided to only work privately for the good of the people, he says. In 2003, Algeria experienced an unprecedented drought. The government even considered importing drinking water by ship because the reservoirs, so important for drinking water supply and irrigation, were in danger of drying up. In addition, the desertification that had been advancing for decades accelerated. As a native Algerian, I felt called upon to help my country with the means at my disposal. Moreover, the country was devastated after a long, bloody civil war between Islamists and the Algerian military. Around 120,000 people died. Hatred and fear characterized everyday life. Massacres and terrorism were constant companions of the people. You had no way of knowing if you would get to your destination alive when you went somewhere. Everyone was turned against everyone else, whether Berbers against Arabs or Muslims against the Algerian government. The desert turns green. In 2005, the visionary started a project in the middle of the desert in Al Houita, 500 kilometers south of the capital, Algiers. Abdellaziz remembers that 7th of July well. It was dry and unbearably hot. The shimmering air was still, and many people were depressed because of the oppressive heat. Abdellaziz began his operation shortly before 16 o'clock by placing antennas in a pool of water. Suddenly, clouds formed and storms came. The next day, instead of small antennas, he set up a large sky acupuncture device that would have a much stronger effect. Another 3 days later, on July 11th, lightning began to flash more and more intensely. At 8:40 p.m., the first relieving drops fell. A circulation and deblocking of energy took place, Abdellaziz explains. Heavy rain began to fall within 100 kilometers, accompanied by a violent storm that even knocked over the rain apparatus. Abdellaziz shut it down. The operation has succeeded. The energy blockages between heaven and earth have been removed, so that heaven can kiss the earth again. Again and again, Abdellaziz carried out such projects with spherical harmonization systems. The weather began to normalize, he recounts. In 2007, the reservoirs were fuller than ever. The press spoke of a historic moment. Now, it was a matter of keeping the desert permanently green. Besides water, this requires trees to cool the soil, allow rainwater to penetrate deeply, and raise the water table permanently. The tree plantations are financed through tree sponsorships. Anyone can plant a tree with 100 euros. Around 40,000 have already been planted. Besides olive trees, mainly fruit trees such as apricot, peach, or apple. Abdelaziz's vision is, with 1 million tree sponsorships, he wants to create the basis for a green belt across the entire Sahara, from Morocco to Saudi Arabia. This green wave will initially be 2 kilometers wide and then reclaim more and more desert. The great thing about it, people can settle here and sustainably secure their existence. So refugees from Africa can be welcomed into a newly created settlement area and learn how to heal the climate and counter the desert with forestry and agriculture. In other words, African refugees could continue to stay on their home continent and live in dignity. The Europeans, who are supposed to make this green belt financially possible, would be equally served. They could save their countries from a migration catastrophe. No revolution thanks to the harmonization system? The weather became more and more stable and people-friendly, so that in 2009, according to Abdellaziz, Algeria not only had a record grain harvest, but also the German television channel ARD reported extensively on the blooming desert in Algeria in the news program Tagesschau. In addition, Abdellaziz said he had noticed that he personally became more and more daring. Although the country was in a state of emergency and one was not allowed to leave the house after 7 o'clock, he, as well as others, went out for longer and longer. The fear had diminished more and more. All over Algeria, people were changing. This went so far that even the professional agitators bit the dust, as the Algerian describes. The Arab Spring was to begin on the Place du 1er Mai, in the center of the capital Algiers. There were repeated attempts at revolution on weekends, but no more than 1,000 people gathered, paid agitators like on the Maidan. Note, the square in Kiev where the bloody revolution in Ukraine began. People came by and said, "Count me out, I have other things to worry about. I have to work my field," or something like that. People showed no interest. They were free in their minds. Abdellaziz is certain his installation helped to keep the peace and prevented people from becoming willing victims of the powers that be, from frequencies such as those emitted by gigantic HAARP installations. In Tunisia, things were quite different. There, a green grocer self-immolated, whereupon the whole country, and soon after half the Arab world, was in flames. Abdellaziz also tells us that he became active in Mongolia in 2012 because the rainy season had shifted from April to June, and nomads could no longer use the grass for their animals and often took their own lives. An analysis had shown that almost 500 Soviet atomic bomb tests in Semipalatinsk, not far away, were the cause of the climate change. The problem was not CO2, but in this case, radioactivity. In other areas, the cause was long-wave continuous irradiation with HAARP frequencies, or the spreading of chemtrails. The unnatural and deadly organ in the atmosphere appeared in the form of smog and certain cloud patterns in the sky. Abdellaziz calls them door streaks. So the Algerian system began its service in Mongolia, and quickly a first natural organ vortex appeared. The clouds thickened, and eventually it snowed, although the weather forecast had predicted much higher temperatures and fair weather. When the solidified door energy was dissolved, we saw a beautiful blue sky, full of organ. Since then, it's been raining again in April. It depends on the person. If you change the environment in the body from acidic to alkaline, the person becomes healthy again, says Abdellaziz. I would call these systems alkaline systems. They change the atmosphere to become alkaline. He emphasizes, however, that the systems do not produce the far-reaching positive effects on their own. He therefore requires the system operators to work spiritually in two ways. By using the ancient Indian fire ritual Agnihotra at sunrise and sunset to purify the atmosphere, and, in addition, by regularly doing simple exercises that lead to enlightenment by making the chakras revolve properly again, and the dormant energy flow upwards as Kundalini. Putting the different teachings together is what Abdellaziz calls integrated environmental healing. In Austria in particular, facilities that are supposed to harmonize the climate, atmosphere, and people literally sprang up in 2015. Around 10 were either commissioned or under construction in the second half of the year. The organization Bioneer, with the New Dimensions Regulars Table in Eastern Austria, and the aeronautical engineer Franz Miller in Western Austria were particularly prominent. The chemtrail pollution had become so bad that donors were found everywhere for the systems, some of which were large. Abdellaziz felt called to act in political flashpoints as well. In Ukraine, he had become active from afar. Only 5 days later, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had reprimanded Ukrainian President Viktor Poroshenko on his policy of aggression, and the situation had slowly eased. Soon after, in July 2015, the Algerians set up a system in Iran, also a flashpoint in world politics. As always, he prepared with Agnihotra together with the system operators. After switching on the system, at 4 p.m., the first clouds came out of nowhere. At 6 p.m., it started raining, and at 4 a.m., they switched off the system again in heavy showers. Previously, it had not rained in this area in July for decades. And, shortly afterwards, Iran reached an agreement in negotiations with the USA, Russia, Great Britain, France, China, and Germany to settle the nuclear dispute. Iran agreed to limit its nuclear program, in return for which the lifting of sanctions against the country was promised. In the meantime, Abdellaziz's spherical harmonization systems have been installed in many countries around the globe. He installed the first system in the Americas, together with the German Andreas Pfeiffer in Paraguay. Pfeiffer runs the parent tree farm near the capital Asunción, where he is dedicated to the sustainable reforestation of the rainforest. Paraguay has been plagued by unbelievable droughts for several years, the cause of which Pfeiffer sees in the deforestation of the rainforest, and above all in the permanent irradiation of the country with HAARP military technology. He was looking for a solution to the problem and came across the findings of Wilhelm Reich. So, Pfeiffer turned to the well-known economics professor Bernd Senf, who has been working on Reich's organ theory for a very long time. He introduced him to Abdellaziz. Since autumn 2013, Paraguay has been hit by a new drought. At a meeting, Abdellaziz gave the farmer special resonators to take to Paraguay and tried a remote treatment in February 2014. Just 12 hours later, it began to rain. There was lightning all night, and the next day, the rain pelted the parched land. Within 3 days, 220 millimeters of much-needed water fell from the sky. In April of that year, Abdellaziz visited Pfeiffer's farm and installed a harmonization system. Since then, Paraguay has had natural weather again, with regular rainfall, sunshine, and pleasant temperatures, Andreas Pfeiffer tells us. Moreover, breathtaking, vivid cloudscapes with clear structures and clear blue skies are now the order of the day. Pfeiffer is certain. Half of the effect of such a system depends on the person who operates it. The person should feel a love for nature, which is another reason why the Agnihotra ceremony is so important. In addition to the responsibility, It is a joy to experience what can be achieved against such gigantic HAARP systems. I believe that in a few years the nightmare will be over. The spherical harmonization systems help people wake up, think clearly, and no longer allow themselves to be manipulated. Small systems are highly effective. In the meantime, Abdellaziz has managed to scale down the technology and make so-called mini-spherical harmonization systems possible. They have an effective radius of 180 kilometers, and 3 such small systems set up in a triangle produce the effect of a large spherical harmonization system. Abdellaziz says, for a long time, the SHS, or spherical harmonization systems, had to be built in a certain minimum size in order to achieve a strong effect. However, the construction of large SHSs is complex and cost-intensive. That is why there are only a few systems in Germany so far. One of these systems is located at the Blue Planet. I had been searching for a long time for a solution to achieve a similarly effective performance at low cost with smaller systems. I finally succeeded. Together with the master craftsman Peter Kutsera from the Blue Planet, I was able to put my ideas into practice, and small spherical harmonization systems, or SHSs for short, were created, which not only look beautiful, but also have an impressive output. The mini SHSs are built according to my instructions in the middle of Germany at the Blue Planet. The mini spherical harmonization system consists of a stainless steel bowl, galvanized pipes, a copper spiral, the flower of life, a Sri Yantra crystal, and 4 special resonators. Just as in the large spherical harmonization systems, there are 2 counter-rotating vortices, a copper spiral, and a water vortex, which are amplified by the tubes and conducted into the atmosphere by positive energy generated by special resonators. The energy that has been solidified by microwave and radio radiation, among other things, is made to oscillate. Door becomes life-friendly organ energy. The atmosphere breathes a sigh of relief. The mini-spherical harmonization system reaches an effective radius of approximately 180 kilometers after approximately 1 year. However, the maximum radius of action of the small systems can be reached immediately with a metal dodecahedron. The effect of the systems was strongest in the center. Over time, however, the energy is built up further and further. Since the small systems are based on the same technology as the large ones, they combine with the energy of the large and additional small systems, and thus potentiate their effect. If they meet the vibrations of another system, they work together and reinforce each other. Through the small systems, great things can be achieved collectively. They harmonize air, soil, water, and organic matter. The frequency becomes more natural, similar to the 60s, and old blockages in people can dissolve. Furthermore, air, soil, water, and the atmosphere are healed. This happens by stimulating a gentle flow of energy. Gently, not violently. Plant growth is promoted and chemtrails are dissolved. Thus, HAARP can no longer manipulate or negatively influence us. The chakras are activated and harmonized. As a result, people become more awake, more aware, and more courageous. The spherical harmonization technology, according to the methods of Wilhelm Reich, Victor Schauberger, and Nikola Tesla, extended by Abdellaziz's research on the other hand, extracts Dor and negative frequencies via steel pipes as well as a torus and neutralizes them in the water and in the earth. This allows natural clouds to flow in through the suction in a similar way to that of acupuncture. La magie, or also la magie. This is French and means magic or the soul axe. So if you move something through love, you are a magician. Nothing is impossible. When you have these skills, fear changes sides. Abdellaziz is convinced, because, as we know, the opposite of love is not hate, but fear. The people in power, on the other hand, would not come from the heart. They think they are in the right. They act like a tree falling in the middle of the forest and make a lot of noise. Wars everywhere. But they forget the magic of the forest that is infinite and growing in the background. What happens when spherical harmonization systems are spread all over the world? Then they no longer have a chance. How does celestial acupuncture work? Spherical harmonization systems, according to Madjid Abdellaziz, consist of cloud stabilizers and often also cloud busters or sky acupuncture devices that function as rainmakers. These pipes, each connected to the water, form a torus, a rotating ring vortex invisible to the eye that breathes in and out. This torus sucks in the deadly organ, transforms its harmful frequencies, and extends many kilometers in height and even more in width. The resonators, which are connected to the copper spiral, provide the right frequencies, i.e., the frequencies that are optimal for nature and man. With wires, a virtual pyramid is aligned north-south from the pipes to the edge of the pool, which provides an enhanced torus effect. At the bottom is the flower of life, which forms the core of the torus and reinforces the effect. However, the prerequisite for a good effect of the spherical harmonization systems is first and foremost the mental work of the system operators. Therefore, the selection of the operators and the personal growth of each individual is extremely important. Overcoming the ego, a trained intuition, and altruistic values are only a few important qualities here. The ancient Indian fire ritual Agnihotra has proven to be the best way of potentiation. The word cloudbuster is a misnomer. Clouds are not destroyed, but are formed independently by the natural energy flow of nature. Sky acupuncture is the appropriate term for Abdellaziz, because as in body acupuncture, energies are extracted via saturation points so that cloud formation can take place again. Such systems must be used cautiously, advises expert Bernd Senf, for example. They make it possible to restore the natural course of processes. As already mentioned, so-called chembusters, on the other hand, have the opposite effect. Although they can be used against chemtrails, they dry out the atmosphere and can thus aggravate weather problems. The mini-spherical harmonization systems are quite different. In this way, the chemtrail blanket is increasingly broken up, and the natural weather pattern can harmonize again.